going on, everybody? It's Wednesday night. It's Ask Weezy time, 10 o'clock Central time. I love this show because I don't have to do any research for it. We've already done stat diggers. We've already done probability. We've already done just the tip. We already did the DFS show today on Pub Sports Radio. So I'm ready to go. I'm ready to answer any questions that you have about any of these 12 fights, whether it be DFS related, DraftKings, or FanDuel, whether it be prize picks related, like my man Victor De Jesus has got a prize picks question in here that we're going to go over in depth using the available numbers that we have. And we've got, money line questions, prop questions. You want to look at the prop template for a particular over-under that you're considering. All this is available. This is what I'm doing. I'm at your service today. Ask me any questions that you got, and I'll do my best to take all this information that I've compiled over the last few years and use that information to help answer your questions. I hope everybody's doing well tonight. I hope everybody's fired up for this card. Rozenstruik versus Almeida is a hell of an event. And I think it's a great main event. Striker versus grappler, two big-time finishers. I'm really looking forward to this fight. So why don't you guys, grab yourself a beverage, strap it down, and let's get ready to talk some fights. And we'll start by answering the question from my guy Victor De Jesus that we have here. He's saying, "Oi, yes. What's up, Weezy? He's got a prize picks 3-legger. Please tell me if you like it. William Sherman over 10 minutes. Kim less than 82.5 fantasy points. And Morono over 63.5 significant strikes landed." So let's start with talking about the Williams fight. As we've got, fight starts round 3, which is the line for what you were looking to get, which is over 10 minutes here, is minus 115. So it's about a 53% implied probability that this happens. So that's pretty good, Whenever you're getting it at better than, at negative money, when you're getting it at juice, it means that you're getting pretty close to what it takes in order to make your money back on a prize picks play. So I personally bet the over 2.5 rounds for this fight because we haven't seen Carl Williams be a finisher yet. Now, could he finish Chase Sherman? Absolutely. Could Chase Sherman land a big shot? Absolutely. So, of course, they're heavyweights. Heavyweight fights go under 10 minutes 54% of the time, on average. So that's your benchmark. That's what you're kind of going against here, saying that this time I think it does go over 10 minutes. And, stylistically, Chase Sherman isn't the kind of guy that's going to go out there and knock you out with one punch. He kind of stays behind his jab. He throws his punches straight, but he doesn't necessarily go out of his shoes trying to throw these punches. So he doesn't have a ton of power at the UFC level either. So definitely like the over 10 minutes. And then we've got the Kim less than 82.5 fantasy points. So let's look at the numbers here for Jeon Kim. So if I were to reduce this to like 100, so these are FanDuel work rates here for Jeon Kim. And FanDuel is 20 points for a decision win. So all of these here are 40 points, 73 points, 102 points, and a loss to Priscilla Cachoeira. She landed 170 significant strikes in that spot. And then 46 here. The Nadia Qasim win would have been something like 140 points. And then we got a loss here for 19. This would be a 63-point win, a 60-point win. So even if she gets the win, she's going to need in the neighborhood of a couple of stop takedowns, which she's going to get 3 points for, and then 0.6 points for. So even if she lands 100 significant strikes and stops 2 takedowns, that would be 66 points, and then it would be 86 so less than 82.5 fantasy points. I think that's pretty good. I think that's a pretty good one because we know that Kim isn't going to wrestle. We know that Kim doesn't really go for submissions. As a matter of fact, we can see here that she gets 0 takedowns per 15 minutes, and she attempts 0 submissions per 15 minutes. She's landing at distance 6.59 strikes per minute. Mandy Bum is absorbing at distance 5.21. So maybe we're looking at, if this fight stays at distance, we're looking at Ji Yeon Kim landing about 6 significant strikes per minute that the fight is spent at distance. Ji Yeon Kim spends about 80% at distance. So if we take 6 significant strikes times 80% of 15 minutes, which would be 12 minutes, that'd be 72 significant strikes. And then she gets about 2.53 clinch and ground strikes landed per minute spent in clinch control time positions. So that would be 2.53 times 3 minutes. So another 7 significant strikes, 7.5 or 8. So yeah, I mean, like, I think that she's going to land somewhere between 80 and 100 significant strikes. And even if she lands 80, I think you got a chance to cover that. So yeah, I think that that's a pretty good one. And then Morono over 63 significant strikes landed. So Morono's landing 5.22 significant strikes per minute, and he's landing 5.62 at distance. And he doesn't spend a lot of time in control time positions, less than 20% of his fights. Alex Morono to go over 63 and a half significant strikes at the pace that he's going at right now. So it would be 5.22x equals 63. So 63.5 divided by 63.5 divided by however many minutes. Just fucked up the formula in my head. So 63 and a half significant strikes landed at 5.22 divided by 5.22. So you need about 12.16 minutes at that pace to get that many significant strikes. Tim Means is only absorbing 3.68 significant strikes per minute. So if you take 5.22 and 3.68, so 5.22 plus 3.68 equals 8.9, and divide that by 2. So if we split the difference, maybe Morono's landing about 4.45 significant strikes per minute, and at that pace times 12, it'd be about 53.4. And at 15 minutes times 15, so if the fight did go to decision, it'd be 66.75. So, sorry about the camera, guys. 66.75. Yeah, I could see it happening if it goes the distance, my man. If it doesn't go the distance, though, it could get a little bit hairy. So, Tim Means a pretty durable guy, and Morono is not much of a finisher. So, I definitely could see this going the full 15 minutes. And if it does, I think you got a really good chance of landing over 63 and a half significant strikes. Maybe 66.75 is the number that the averages would tell me it would land. So, yeah, that's what I got for you, Victor. Thanks for asking that question. We got Lone Wolf DFS is in the room saying, "What's up, Weezy? What's going on, Lone Wolf? Thanks for hanging out with us here." Mark Schillingberg in the room saying, "Oh, what's up, Mark? Good to see you hanging out in here." The Jewish Better in the room saying, "What up, Weezy? What's up, Jewish Better? Good to see you hanging out in here, my man." We got Silky B in the room saying, "Lately we've seen some crazy line movement. Have you ever tracked how money lines move in comparison to win percentage?" No, I haven't, because I don't have line movement in my database. That's something that would be a tremendous data. It would be a project just to get that data, and I am not doing that. But it's something that you can look at as it relates to certain fights. You're going to find certain websites like Best Fight Odds will have some historical line movement information, and you can look at it fight by fight, right? And then you can kind of decide, oh wow, does this fighter look good as a favorite? Does he look good as an underdog? You know, is he the kind of fighter you want to lay juice on? Is he the kind of fighter that you really want to stay away from unless they have a plus money number next to their name? So, yeah, in terms of line movement, I think that is something that would be very difficult to track, because getting the data, would be very difficult to find that data and do it in a way that would be fast. It could be a couple of months to go through the last 10 years of fights. I mean, we're talking, if you guys look at my, let me share my screen with you guys here. All right. Okay. So those are the numbers that I have up on the screen here. But what I also have is my UFC fights database, right? So you guys can see that. This is all the fights from January 19th, 2013 until the present day. So this is 10 years of UFC history in this spreadsheet, right? 4,964 rows. That's how many fights there have been in the UFC since 2013. So to track the line movement in those fights and to find a source that would even have that much historical data would be challenging, to say the least. But what I already have here is something that's going to be a wealth of data and a wealth of information, and I'm trying to find time off because the UFC really doesn't give us any, in order to start combing through this and finding some of the data that matters and starting to track that. And then, you know, having ways to go through fights and tracking statistics that are statistically significant, especially by weight class, and then doing it that way where we use this data right here, which is all, you know, accurate and useful. So I'm going to be using this data, you know, going forward to create some kind of a Prize Picks template that will be useful for Prize Picks players to really kind of have a data-driven idea of how to predict how many significant strikes are going to be scored by the winning fighter when the winning fighter's bet percent, you know, money line is this, when the over-under is here, you know, when all the lines are baked into that, what's an expected value for you know, fantasy points, for significant strikes landed, for takedowns landed. These are all things that I'm going to be working on going forward. We got my guy Devin is in the room, and ring a ding ding, the first donation of this week's Ask Weezy. My guy Devin saying thanks as always. I appreciate you, my man, always helping keep the lights on here in your Uncle Weezy studio. Working on YouTube is not really work because you don't really get paid. So when you guys do support the show, it means a lot and it makes it all worthwhile. So thank you so much, Devin, for stepping up and donating to the show, man. It means a lot. Let me know if you have any questions about this card, brother. We got Mark Schillingberg saying, is it literally just as easy as Gelatin around one sub and to take it to the bank? Because that seems what everyone is thinking, maybe possible ground and pound, but what do you think? Yeah, I think ground and pound is absolutely in the cards here. You know, that's what makes fights like that so difficult to gamble on, when you've got somebody's money line being juiced to the tits at like minus 500. The problem is that now you've got to guess how they're going to win the fight. Is it going to be by decision? Is it going to be inside the distance? If it is inside the distance, is it more likely to be a submission or a knockout? Do they have a chance for both? Because like right now, you know, Gilton Almeida inside the distance is something like minus 335. I mean, like for an inside the distance prop, you almost never see a number approach, you know, almost 80% in implied probability. This is probably a 78% number here, implied probability that he's going to finish the fight. It's pretty wild stuff, man. So yeah, it's never that simple. It's never as simple as you think it's going to be. This is MMA. Some crazy shit happens. So yeah, I mean, I don't think it's that simple. Rozenstruik could land a big shot. Don't forget, this guy's knocked people out with jabs. Okay. So yeah, anything is possible. It's never just that simple. So we'll see how it goes on that one. Jewish Better saying, Is pussy punt a good term for female cup shot? Yeah. I mean, usually it's the 4-letter C word that you precedes punt. That would be what I would consider to be the correct term. But what you're giving us, Jewish Better, here has an alliteration to it. You got a P in the first word, you got a P in the second word. It's a little more poetic, but I like the one where you've got the rhyming 4-letter C word and then punt. That one, to me, just pops a little bit more. Thank you for the good question, though. These are the excellent kind of questions that we like to hear here on Ask Weezy. We got Ruthless Soda Pop in the room saying, hello, Weezy. You are picking Douglas De Silva de Andrade to win against Cody Stamann, right? The actual official pick, Soda Pop, is Cody Stamann by decision. But at this point, the line has gotten just a little bit out of control for me. Cody Stamann sitting around minus 165 on BetMGM. Right now, Cody Stamann is minus 145. I was looking at Douglas Silva de Andrade yesterday at plus 140 on DraftKings. Now he's down to plus 125. If Silva de Andrade gets back up to say plus 140, 145, I would consider betting him there because it gets me to an implied probability where he's only got to win the fight about 41% of the time in order for me to break even. And I kind of feel like Stamann does have the edge here, but I don't think he should be minus 150, minus 160. I think that's a little bit wide. I think Douglas Silva de Andrade, has got most of the finishing equity in this fight. And these bantamweight fights, they finish about half the time. So if one guy, the underdog, has got most of the finishing equity, you better be damn sure that Cody Stamann is going to be able to win the minutes when outside of the possibility of Douglas Silva de Andrade winning moments, landing that big shot, getting one of those 20 knockout wins that he has on his resume. So I think it's a very close fight. I don't really feel like laying juice on Cody Stamann. The official pick is Cody Stamann, but I think at this point, the Douglas Silva de Andrade money line makes just a little bit more sense here. We got Silky B is in the room saying, DK has percentages now for money that has come in on fighters. I have a hard time believing them quite often. Thoughts? Well, I mean, I would think that if they were providing that information, it would probably be fraud if they were intentionally misrepresenting that information while simultaneously providing it. So that would be fraud. I don't think you would have a reason to not believe them. Because I don't think that there's any kind of regulation that says that they're forced to provide that kind of information. So now if they do go out and provide it, it's on them to provide it accurately because nobody else could possibly have that information but them because they're the book. So I think that they would accurately represent those numbers, Silky B. I don't see why they wouldn't. Subhuman Gaucho is in the room saying, what's up, fam? All good, man. It's Wednesday night. I'm looking forward to kind of like a day off tomorrow because I don't have to produce any content. And but I'm already starting to work on stats for a month from now. For the June 3rd stats, I just started here by getting Amir Albazi versus Kai Kara France. So, and then I'm thinking about taking a very light week next week because it is kind of a trash card. And if I take a light week and am able to work on behind the scenes shit for like 2 straight weeks, I could potentially have some new Patreon products going forward. And my focus over the next month or two is going to be improving the Patreon because, unfortunately, working on YouTube, doing all the content on YouTube, it brings us like literally next to no money. Maybe $100 a month, $150. I mean, if there's no donations to the channel, chances are you don't even make $100 a month. So in order for me to be able to continue doing this and putting as much time as I do put into it, I need to make money on the Patreon. So I'm going to be working really hard to kind of update the Patreon, create better visuals for the analytics that I already have, and then doing Patreon only content for the people that support me, for the people that support the channel. They can get access to content 48, 72 hours before I would put it out there on YouTube. So definitely looking to increase the amount of people that subscribe to the Patreon so that I can make enough money in order to do this full time and put the necessary amount of work that it takes to do this properly. So that's what's up, Subhuman Gaucho. A long answer to a very short question. Mark Schillingsberg saying, thoughts on Morono by sub and Andrade by sub. So Alex Morono is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt who has attempted 0.3 submissions per 15 minutes. He's been in the cage for 198 minutes. So 198 divided by 15 equals 13.2 times 0.3 equals he's attempted 4 submissions in 17 UFC fights, and he has gotten 1 submission at the UFC level. So Tim Means has been submitted 4 times in 11 losses. So he's been knocked out once, he's been subbed 4 times, and he's been lost by decision 6 times at the UFC level. Now, Means is not the most committed wrestler. He's attempting about 2 takedowns per fight. He's getting 1.2 takedowns per 15 minutes. Morono does not defend takedowns well, only at 53.57%. So we could see Means mixing in the wrestling to try to get fights to the ground. And if he does, we could see Morono attempting submissions there. So, I mean, for a guy who's attempted 4 submissions in 17 fights, and for a guy who's only gotten 4 takedowns in 17 fights, I think it's unlikely that Alex Morono gets a submission. But if the price is right, well, then that's a little bit different. Like, for instance, Alex Morono's money line is like 2/3. It's about minus 200 is about 66% implied probability. If you figure that 10% of his win equity in this fight is submission, then you should be getting something that would represent a 6% implied probability, which would be somewhere in the neighborhood of 13-1. So if you're not getting that kind of a number, I probably wouldn't do it. Douglas Silva de Andrade by sub is very interesting because if you look at Cody Stamann, he's lost twice to submission in his 4 UFC losses. Douglas Silva de Andrade has 1 win by submission in the UFC, and that's his only win by submission in his entire career. But people try to take him down, and as a result of that, he is going for submissions, and we've seen Cody stuck in a couple of guillotines before. So, yeah, this is a very interesting spot. But Silva de Andrade has got like something like a 45% win probability here. And since of those 21 finish wins that he has, 20 of them are by knockout, I think that just because Cody Stamann has lost by submission before, that you might be overpaying unless you're getting something like 10-1 there. At anything worse than 10-1, I probably would just stay away from it. And when it's 10-1, you can really just play for a 1/10 or 2/10 of a unit and be really happy if it hits. Silky B, DK has tickets, but not money, correct? I'm not sure about that. Could have it wrong, Silky, but that was my impression. Okay. Daz File is saying, LOL's Jack Attack style broadcast. No camera, just voice. VB MMA pick same. Trying hard to think of a good question. Think one, man, dude. I got you, dude. Let's go. Anthony W saying, what's up, Uncle? Lou Bet you was shouting you out big time on Chronic Combat Conversation Show. Oh, that's cool, man. Yeah, I love the Chronic Combat guys. They always do good work. As a matter of fact, they asked me to be like a last-minute replacement when I was doing a show yesterday. And I think Lou stepped up and did it for them on short notice because I think they lost their guests. So, yeah, always good to see Lou Betcha out there. One of my brothers over there at the MMA Engine. And, yeah, that's my guy. So good to see him talking well about me. And I got nothing but good things to say about him. Subhuman Gaucho saying, I will say that MMA is one of the few sports where, generally speaking, I don't give a fuck about the market moves. I trust my reads, and the market is wacky here. Well, yeah, sometimes, the moves, when they're like slow and steady and they make sense, that's fine. But when you see Like, for instance, I even put it out on Twitter 2 weeks ago. I said it was weird about the Journey Newson, Brian Kelleher line movement because, Kelleher was like a minus 180 favorite, right? And the way I had the fight capped, I would have probably had Kelleher around minus 200. So I was like, maybe I'll bet Kelleher or parlay him at minus 180. And then all of a sudden I see he's minus 160, minus 140, minus 120. Like the money's coming in on Journey Newson, and it's all at once. It's as if they know something, right? And I says out on Twitter, I says, what is going on with this Journey Newson line movement? Why is there so much money coming in on this guy? We've got the available tape on Journey Newson. We know who he is at this point. It's not like, he's coming back from an injury and we think he's going to be super explosive now as a bantamweight at 33, 34 years of age or whatever he is. It just didn't make any sense that there would be that much money coming in. And it turns out somebody did fucking know something. It turns out Brian Kelleher was injured and injured seriously. Like Kelleher's out there talking about now, like he might be able to be back by November. Imagine that. He knew he was hurt. He planned on fighting with the injury. The UFC wouldn't let him. But 2 days before the UFC told him, you can't fight, we saw a shit ton of money come in on Journey Newson. So line movement isn't something that should necessarily scare you out of a play that you've already made. But certain types of line movement, you really got to keep an eye on it, Subhuman Gaucho. And sometimes it's just kind of like scary line movement where it's like, man, this isn't just the market kind of all getting behind the same fighter and just pushing the line slowly in one direction. These are people who are making gigantic bets that don't necessarily make sense at the time, and they're putting down so much money that it suggests that they might know something. That's the kind of line movement that scares me. Dazfile saying Anthony W was crazy. Macho Man was scary. Shit. Macho Man, dude, that's one of Lou Bettia's best impressions there. And my guy Devin, ring a ding ding, the second donation from the first person to give donations on today's Ask Weezy. My guy Devin with the $5 donation saying, that's for styling on us with your maths. Keep in mind, Prize Picks makes you parlay, making it even more likely for your bet to come through. Now, that's right. That's right. And I like Prize Picks. So we've got all the totals up here on the screen. We got, Gabriel Green at 80.5 fantasy score. Ji-Young Kim, 82.5. We got all the totals up here, so we can always answer any questions that you guys might have there. Appreciate the donation, Devin. So much information out there in the information that I already have in my database that I can make some very interesting Prize Picks content. Like I said, over this next light week and then the week off, I'm going to be planning on putting some serious stuff together for you guys and making it as some good Patreon only content going forward. What's up, Anthony W saying the Daz unlikely LOL. What's up, Devin? Best show, says Bob Spikermans. Appreciate you, Bob. We got Mr. D is in the room. What's up, Mr. D? Good to see you hanging out in here. Is that TJ Brown with bad hair there? I can't tell who the picture is that you got as your avatar there. We got DJ saying, had a similar question to Silky's recently. Let me rephrase. Can we quantify the reliability of a fighter winning when they've been a large favorite, or if they're a habitual bed shitter? Seems like a tall task, but a metric I'd use a lot. Well, so I think that there's a good way to do this. Like you could do it in a Bernoulli, if you're going to use a mathematical term. A Bernoulli event is something that's either a 0 or a 1. It only fits into two categories, right? And what you could do is you could say, you could plug lines, closing lines, opening lines, whatever the average line is, whatever you want to use. And you could say, you could do a general formula where you're just saying, here's the implied probability of the closing line or the average line or the opening line on fighter A, right? And let's say they're minus 150. So we know that that's 60%. And if they win the fight, you could just say, every bet that you make is to win 1 unit. So if they won that fight, you bet 1.5 units, you returned 1 unit, you had a 66.67 return on investment on that bet. And then you move forward and you just calculate the effectiveness of these fighters. But the fighter can't help the line, right? The fighter can't help the market perception about them. So just because somebody's minus 200, right? Like Drew Dober was against Matt Frivola, and then he goes out there and he gets sparked in the first round. It's not Drew Dober's fault that the market overvalued him and that the market undervalued, Matt Frivola. So the whole bed shitter thing is really more of an indication of the market shitting the bed than it is the fighter shitting the bed. We want to put the blame elsewhere, and I mean I think that that's fair to do, especially as us bettors. Like we can say, okay, we like fighter A to win, but at the end of the day, it's out of our hands. Fighter A has to still fight smart. Just because we think that they can win, it doesn't mean that they're going to fight in a way that gives them their best win condition. They might do what we call bad fight IQ moves, that make them look worse than what we thought that they would look. So a lot of this shit is out of our hands, but at the end of the day, we're the market. So, if a minus 400 favorite shits the bed and loses, that's the market's fucking fault. It's not the fighter's fault. It's the fighter's fault for not getting the win, but we valued him at 80% and then he lost. So there's the interesting ways to look at this. But a fighter return on investment calculation is a very simple way to look at that. And it's a way to find out which fighters are overperforming the market's expectations of them. And somebody with a negative return on investment could be underperforming. But we have to know what that return on investment is like, because, a perfectly timed market is going to maybe have 5% VIG in there. So there's going to be 2% VIG on the underdog and 3% VIG on the favorite, especially in the case where the favorite's minus 150, 60% implied probability. We'll have 60% of the VIG. Okay. In those cases, we've got situations where we can actually figure out the mathematical reliability of certain fighters, or what we would better call it is the market's expectation of those fighters. So I think that's a very interesting way to look at things. We can do that with a very simple return on investment calculation. But in order to have that calculation, DJ, we need the lines. And we would need to decide whether we want the opening line, the closing line, or the average line. And then depending on which one of those that we wanted, we might have a harder time finding that data. So once again, it's one of those metrics that it would be nice to have, but it might be difficult to go out there and get all the information. We got Jerfrid Volney in the room saying, "Oi, Uncle Weezy, the best in town. What your 6th favorite to put on DraftKings, please?" All right, so DraftKings, my lineup right now in cash is Carl Williams, Carlos Ulberg, Jessica Rose Clark, Johnny Walker, Matt Brown, and D-Rod, Daniel Rodriguez. That's my cash lineup that uses all 50,000 of salary. I think that Brown is a good underdog option this week because Court McGee hasn't finished a win since 2010. So there's a very good chance you get the full 15 minutes out of Brown. I also believe that Daniel Rodriguez is actually live to win, even though he's a big underdog here. So I like that one. I think this lineup, whether you like Anthony Smith or Walker to win that fight, you can fit either one of them in your lineup. They'll both fit in. And then I like Jessica Rose Clark as a great leverage play because she's 8,400, but she's actually becoming the underdog here. So she's going to be a little bit overpriced, which is going to make her under-owned. And I believe that she's got a lot of wrestling upside against a UFC debutante that we're missing a lot of information on. So I think that there's a good leverage play there in Jessica Rose Clark. And then I like the two people on top. I mean, whether it's Jailton Almeida, Carl Williams, what's his name? Ulberg, whoever, you take two out of those three guys, and you got a pretty good cash lineup there. Jewish Better is saying, disagree with you heavily, Subhuman. Now, what did Subhuman say? Yeah, okay, so he was disagreeing with Subhuman Gaucho's assessment that he doesn't care about the market moves. I trust my reads, and the market is wacky here. I understand that feeling there, because market moves mean different things to different people, for sure. But where was the Jewish Better? I just missed his. Okay, yeah, disagree with you heavily. And saying, oh my God, I never thought of that. Thank you, Unc. Oh yeah, for sure, dude. I mean, like, it's a way to look at it, because we can't help what the fighters do when they're in the cage. We're not their coach. You know, just because I expect, say, Court McGee to go out there, and if I were Court McGee's coach, I'd be telling him, hey, man, you do so well when you wrestle. And Matt Brown has got a lot of power early in fights. He's 42 years old. So why don't you go out there and shoot that first takedown in the first 10 seconds of round one? Make this dude grapple. Tire him out. He's 42. You're way up there in Orem, Utah, training at elevation. You're known to have some of the best cardio in the history of the welterweight division. So why don't you just do that? But just because then you're going to go and you lay that juice on Court McGee. But if he doesn't do that, now he's not going to look minus 200 against a guy as powerful as Matt Brown. But at the same time, we have to be honest with what this is. This is a market perception game. And just because the market perceives a certain fighter a certain way, it doesn't mean that they're going to go in the cage and fight the way that the market thinks they're going to fight. So we have to look at it in the way that the market is what we're playing against, not necessarily against the fighter performances. In what regard? Yeah, I think he's just saying, Subhuman Gaucho, in that the line movement does sometimes mean something. And my guy Jewish Better, ring a ding ding, the $10 super sticker. I appreciate you, my man, helping keep the lights on here in your Uncle Weezy's studio, getting donations today left and right. I truly appreciate you guys for supporting the channel. And you can also support the channel if you don't feel like giving money by just hitting that thumbs up button, hitting that subscribe button, leaving me a comment down below, even if it's just, oi, I don't care. I love seeing a bunch of comments down there, and I do my best to reply to all of them. So thank you so much, Jewish Better, for the $10 super sticker. It means a lot, my man. And we got Jeffred saying, oi. Okay, so we've already gotten that question right there. We've got Subhuman Gaucho. I assume the market. Yes, about the market moves, but do what works best for you. Yeah, absolutely. Always do what works best for you, and always trust your own reads, man. And we got Justin J is in the room saying, oi, what's good, Uncle Weezy? Howdy, chat. I dig your show. Let's cash some tickets. Justin, I see you in here all the time, man. Always good to have you hanging out with us. Let me know if you have any questions about any of the fighters this week. Subhuman Gaucho saying, I don't know, TJB. I certainly wouldn't tell people to bet against the market move, but a lot of my biggest beat bets over the last few years have been opposite the market. Yeah, dude, that's when you're opposite the market, that's usually when you're getting the best price, right? Because you're buying the side that everybody else is selling. So you're going to get a good price when that happens. And if you're reading the right things, if you're making the right reads, if your reads are less emotional and more about what works over the long term, you're going to pick out those spots when the market has just completely got it wrong. And it happens all the time. Recency bias is something that we get to take advantage of a lot in the sport of MMA, because that most recent performance is the one that really sticks in our mind. And oftentimes, when somebody's coming off a career best performance, you can really only picture that last fight. And you forget that 2 fights ago, they looked like trash, or they were minus 300 favorite and they barely squeaked out a split decision. So we always have to have all of the data in mind, and benchmarks and price. The way that we price these things is so important. Mark Schillingberg saying, Santino Franco was saying on his podcast that you wouldn't believe the injuries women sustain from those low blows in WMMA. I heard him say that. He said he was in the ER with a fighter and was talking to the ER nurses. Yeah, dude. I remember him saying that because they don't wear cups and because you might get a toe pointed up in there that you could get lacerations. It's nasty. It's absolutely nasty because they're not wearing cups, but they can get kicked in the genitals too. And just because theirs aren't hanging out like ours are, it doesn't mean that, they can't sustain some nasty injuries. And I heard Santino talking about that, and that's pretty scary what he was saying. What are my thoughts on the Kai Kara versus Albazi odds? My thoughts, Bob, is that the plus money on Kai Kara France at first look is very, very intriguing. Let's see if we can see the line here. I like Alexander Pantoja, a guy who has beaten Brandon Moreno twice at plus 160. I think that's a very interesting line right there. And let's see, where is... Oh, they don't have it up, but on Bet Online they do. It's the UFC 289 now. It's the UFC Vegas 74. So right now, Kai Kara France plus 130, Amir Albazi minus 150. Here, let me do something. Let me show you guys how the sausage is made. Give me a second here, you guys. So I told you that I was already doing the 6-3. So let me put the matchup up here, and I'll show you how I do it. So I've got a matchup template, which I keep down here. And I'm going to Control-C that. I'm going to paste this template into this blank page here. And then we are going to write the fighters' names. Kai Kara France. That's the mirror. Okay. And then we're going to get the stats from over here. I'm going to cut and paste this giant line of stats that has literally everything that I need in it. Where I've derived a bunch of formulas that get all of these stats populated there for Kai Kara France. And then we're going to go back here. Since we got Kara France's data in there now at 24 and 10, we're going to go down to Amir Albazi's data, which is right here. I'm going to cut and paste that. Because I just created these before the show started. You get a look at this fight. And then we can cut and paste that now into Amir Albazi's. And then now everything is populated. So now we can look right here. And I'm going to zoom in to 120%. Let's do 130. Let's see if that works. Even better. All right. So now, Kai Kara France, 1 year, about 6 months older. He's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage. Amir's going to have a 1-inch height advantage. They're both orthodox fighters. Kai Kara France, 18 more fights, about 200 more minutes in the pro cage here. Both of these guys have been fighting for a long time. According to this, Amir Albazi is supposedly only 29 years old, but his pro career is 13 years and 8 months. So if you do the math, that means he took his first pro fight at the age of 15. So Amir Albazi is probably lying about his age. He's probably more like 33, 34, because I really don't care what part of the world you're in. They're not giving 15-year-olds contracts to fight in mixed martial arts. So, but either way, both of these guys have been fighting for a very long time. But you look at Kai Kara France, 12 and a half years as a fighter, 35 professional fights. This dude's been very busy. He's been fighting every year, 2-3 times a year at least. Amir Albazi somehow has only managed 17 professional fights in an almost 14-year career. Very inactive. A lot of cage rust. It might take him a while to get going here. Amir has got an 87% finish rate as a pro. For Kai Kara France, it's about 58%. Kai's been finished in 2 of his 3 UFC losses. At distance, we see both of these guys are landing more significant strikes than they absorb at distance. That's Albazi. This is Kai Kara-France. Kara-France has got the better defense. Kai Kara-France has got 6 knockdowns in the UFC, while Amir has 2. And if we go here, Kai doesn't wrestle much, but he shows 87.8% takedown defense. And despite the fact that his opponents have attempted 16 he's attempted 16 takedowns and his opponents have attempted 41, he's still winning 45% of the control time positions. So a guy like Amir Albazi, who's very dependent on winning minutes on the ground in order to win fights, 40% control time for, only 2.24% control time against. We're going to have to see him probably wrestle and win minutes because Kai Kara-France, I mean, we've seen Amir Albazi land a couple of knockdowns, but I think France is going to be the better striker here. And then if you look at the strength of schedule, it's not even close. A 1.38 ratio for France, 0.42 for Amir Albazi. So for a guy who's only spending 58% of his fights at striking range, so 42% of his fights are taking place in grappling time positions, he's going to need to get takedowns. And Kai Kara-France is just really good at stopping takedowns. So I know that Kai Kara-France is more experienced. I know that he's fought the much better brand of competition. I'm going to say that he's more dangerous on the feet. And I'm going to also say that we've seen this guy face 4 takedown attempts per fight. So, his opponents have attempted to grapple him, but still, they're only winning about an eighth of the cage time in those fights against him in control time position. So 1 out of 8 seconds, you need to dominate more than that much of the fight, especially these days, to win a close decision. So I think that Kai Kara-France is a little bit busier at distance. I think he's a little more defensively responsible. He has been knocked down 4 times, so that's not great. But I'm leaning the plus money on Kai Kara-France here, Bob. Prediction Shark is in the room saying, "Oi, who's the long shot winner on this card?" I think the long shot winner is Daniel Rodriguez. I mean, this line at plus 260 is absolutely crazy. I just don't get it. And Daniel Rodriguez has fought the much better brand of competition over his career. Ian Gary hasn't beaten anybody in the UFC yet that has a winning UFC record. Meanwhile, now he's going to be fighting a guy who's 7-2 in the UFC and who's been in there with guys like Neil Magny, like Tim Means, like Li Jingliang. A lot better competition, than what Ian Gary's been in there with Song Kanan and Jordan Williams and Darian Weeks and Gabe Green. Basically, both of these guys, Rodriguez and Ian Gary, they both 30-27 Gabe Green. Only Rodriguez did a better job of it. So, I mean, I think that these guys are going to be very close in the striking exchanges. And, I just don't understand this line. So, at plus 260, you're talking about a guy right now who they're giving about a 30% chance to win this fight. I think he wins it about 50% of the time. So, I think that is my long shot winner on this card, Prediction Shark. And I've got 1 unit invested in Daniel Rodriguez, but boy, did I miss the line because I got in at plus 205. So I got that line run square up my ass, and I'm wearing it right now. Bob's saying, I smacked the shit out of that Kai Carolina at about plus 150. I like that, dude. That's a good plus money number to get on the more on the more experienced guy, on the guy who's fought the much higher level of competition, the guy who's fighting at the better camp, all that stuff. So I think it's a good look, man. We got Mel on the JS saying, what do you think of Tate pulling out of that ass beating against Mayra Bueno Silva? Rest in peace, my 3.8 unit bet that I put on Mayra Bueno Silva to beat Miesha Tate's ass. I laughed out loud while I was making that bet. I almost max bet a women's favorite, which is like just one of the dumbest things that you can do. as a gambler is be very confident in a women's mixed martial arts favorite. We've just seen that story go tits up so many different times. But yeah, man, I laid minus 190, 3.8 units to win too. I was very confident that MBS was going to absolutely shave her ass. Equinanius is in the room saying, "Oi, what's up, dude? Thanks for hanging out with us." Subhuman Gaucho saying that's an excellent example of a line move to be concerned about. With the Newsom line and some great advice as always. I appreciate you, man. Thank you. That's what I try to do. That's what's so great about Ask Weezy, right? Bob Spikerman saying, Weezy Tate, my lady Myra Bueno Silva is already canceled. I also laid the hammer on Myra. Damn it, man. And the line moved against me. I was like, you got to be kidding me. I could have got her at minus 171. That was very interesting, man. I don't know if I want to bet Myra Bueno Silva against Holly Holm, though. That's a different fight. I think Holly Holm's much more effective still at this point in her career than what we've seen from Miesha Tate recently. So, going to be interesting, man. We got Myra versus Holm is now a 5-rounder instead of Luque versus RDA. Really? I mean, that is so bad, dude. It is TJ Brown, his face after he got choked out by Algie. I thought it was TJ Brown, Mr. D. That's such a funny picture. His hair is all fucked up. He doesn't look like he knows where he is. Oh, it's hilarious. But then at the same time, I had the over 2.5 rounds in that fight, so I probably had a similar look on my face as Algio choked him out there. We got Rousus in the room saying, "Oi, Weezy, what would your personal odds be for the Lisboa versus Clark fight? I have a unit on Lisboa at plus money and was wondering if I should hedge with Clark." So when I saw this earlier this week, I saw Jessica Rose Clark minus 130, and I believe they had Lisboa at plus 100, maybe plus 105 there. And I thought that I was actually going to bet Clark at that number. So I think that's about where the line should be. Clark minus 130. There's a lot of missing information on this fight. For instance, Lisboa has lost to 2 solid fighters. We know that she's got a very good Muay Thai background. She fought Valentina Shevchenko back in 2010 in a Muay Thai bout. So we know that she's got legit striking. We know that she's lost to 2 fighters that are pretty good. Norma Dumont was her UFC or was her pro debut. She got choked out in the first round, rear naked choked by Norma Dumont. And then she lost to Lorani Santos, who's now 6-1. But the women that she's beaten, and I think there's 5 wins on her resume, add up the win-loss records currently of those 5 women, and you'll get 2 wins and 11 losses. So what we've seen from Lisboa on tape, when she wins fights, we're keeping in mind, like she's kicking the ass of some seamstress or makeup artist there. They're not real fighters. So, yeah, she's got a striking background. But, yeah, the 2 times that she's been in the cage with real mixed martial artists, she lost both of those fights. So, I think anybody who's betting Lisboa, especially at this number, is making a ton of assumptions. And one of the assumptions that they're making that's flat out wrong is that she's going to look against Jessica Rose Clark like she looked against Suzumake or Conceição, who are 0-1 and 1-5 fighters. Jessica Rose Clark fought Sarah Kaufman on the regional scene like 8-9 years ago when this girl wasn't even doing mixed martial arts yet. So I like Jessica Rose Clark at this line right now, and if she gets the plus money, I might take a small stab on her money line. DJ saying, Weezy, what did we decide? Several months ago, the Uncle Weezy fan club was called. I remember the second choice was Weezer's. Anyway, print up some shirts. I got to come up with that. I got to come up with a logo for myself. I think it's got to be me in the smoking jacket, maybe with a joint in my hand and a beer in the other, and I'm screaming "Oi!" Or maybe there's a paloma in one. Either way, 2 things in each hand that will get you inebriated. Me yelling "Oi!" and having the smoking jacket on, but I need somebody to do the logo for me. So it's something I got to work on. And then from there, I think we can get some pretty cool merch once we got the logo down. But yeah, I think that there were a few different. We got the Weezers, the Oi Boys. Oh God, Uncle's Family. I mean, there's definitely some fun ones in there. But yeah, dude, merch coming soon to Uncle Weezy's YouTube channel. Let's hope that we can make that happen before the year 2029. Justin Villegas saying my parlay is Musasi, Ulberg, Carl Williams, Lou Betya, Morono, and Jonathan Almeida. How does my parlay go bad? Well, if Lou Betya is fighting any UFC fighter, that's where your parlay goes tits up, my friend. I don't know what Fabian Edwards looks like in terms of, I don't know how good of a fighter he is. So I don't know how the Musasi leg looks. Ulberg's Uncle Weezy's ass shaking of the week. I actually parlayed Ulberg and Carl Williams money lines myself. Morono could get caught by Tim Means. Tim Means has got a lot of power. He does land knockdowns, and we've seen Morono get separated from his consciousness before. So I suppose that's a possibility. I mean, I think Jonathan Almeida gets the job done. The bottom line is, Justin, anything can go wrong in MMA, and it's hard to pick which leg might go wrong there, but I think that they're all pretty solid legs. All right. We've got Kevin in the room saying Jailton headlining an ABC card is huge for him. UFC strapping the racket on his back. They need to do that because this guy is a tremendous talent. I think that they're having problems finding him fights. So the best way to do it is just to say, okay, if you're turning down a Jailton Almeida fight, you're turning down a main event. So, and if you're turning down a main event, then we probably don't need you here in the UFC. Go to Bellator. They can use second-rate fighters who don't want to fight. PFL is looking to get guy. They just got Christoph Jotko. If you want to get guys like that, go fight for them. The UFC wants the best people, and you're going to have to give people incentives to step up and take these fights. Why the fuck is Arman Tsarukyan fighting Joaquim Silva? How does that make any sense? I mean, we know that Tsarukyan's a top 10 talent. Joaquim Silva has fought once or twice in the last 5 years. Why the fuck are they making that fight? Well, the reason is that for some reason, people don't want to fight Tsarukyan. Well, they're passing on a main event slot potentially. And that's what you have to do. When Umar Nurmagomedov, that guy might never fight again because most people are just going to be like, you know what? No, I'm not going to fight him. I know how that works out for me, but it works out a lot better for you taking a loss if you're doing it in a main event, in a fight where nobody expected you to win and you've got a chance to steal that dude's hype. So, yeah, they got to give this guy main events and they've got to give people incentives to fight him. Weezy, my man, I also bet the Pantoja line at plus 160 already. Dude, I'm right there with you, Bob. I'm probably going to be betting that very soon. I love that line, man. My biggest bet on the card is the Means Morono under 2.5 rounds at plus 125. What do the stats think? Well, we've got some really good data there, Daz. So the Means Morono under 2.5 rounds at plus 125. What just happened? Why did that happen? Okay, hang on a sec, guys. Sorry about that. All right. 125 Means Morono. Okay, so that's a 44% implied probability. The benchmark is exactly right there. 44.86% of 170-pound fights that are scheduled for 3 rounds go under 2.5 rounds. And you're paying 44.44%, so you're actually getting less than 1% of a break there. Tim Means has went under 2.5 rounds, 11 out of 24 times. So that's about like 45%. 11 divided by 24 equals 45.83%. It's a little bit better than that number. And Alex Morono, it's only 6 out of 17, which is 35%. So what you're hoping is that this is a little bit more of a Tim Means paced fight because Tim Means has had that durability cracked a couple of times recently. He has been finished a couple of times recently and knocked down as well. And we know that Morono definitely brings the fight. He throws a lot of volume. He's a take one to give one kind of guy. So the data doesn't absolutely love it, but it's sure as hell not overpriced, Daz. And these are the perfect kind of lines where when your stylistic read is telling you this thing's going under, and then you see numbers like this, it's telling you that your read means a lot because they're pricing it agnostically, where you're even getting a little bit better price on the under 2.5 than you are on the over. And we've got so much data here with 41 combined fights for these two guys that were 3 rounds. So the data doesn't love or hate it, but if your stylistic read likes it, then you got a really good line there because you're getting plus money. And ring a ding ding. My guy Bob Spikerman's with the £2 donation saying €2 donation saying, truly appreciate all the effort you put in, man. Thank you so much. It means a lot, and it makes it worthwhile when you guys show appreciation for the effort by donating to the show, Bob. I really appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. Lone Wolf DFS saying Kai Kara France all day. Beautiful. There we go, man. So we're on the same page. Albazi last fight against short notice dude was not a good look. Yeah, dude. He made it look a little bit harder than it had to. And this is the other thing that I wanted to show you guys. I didn't get to this. But this is one of my favorite things to look at is the strength of schedule. Amir Albazi has got 4 wins at the UFC level, and you combine those 4 guys' UFC records, you get 5 wins and 12 losses. The wins are against Zhalgas Zhumagulov, 1-5. Alessandro Costa, 0-1. Who else for Albazi? Malcolm Gordon, 2-3, I think. And I forget who the other name is off the top of my head, but, they're not world beaters. These guys, he hasn't faced one guy yet that I think has a winning record at the UFC. So, Kai Kara France is a guy that's 7-3, and 2 of those 3 losses are the same guy, and that's the current champion of the weight class. So, yeah, this is a big step up for Amir Albazi. Big step up. So we'll see how it goes for him. And then ring-a-ding-ding. My guy Lone Wolf DFS saying, love you, Weezy. Dude, I love you right back, brother. Thank you so much for the donation to the channel. I'm cleaning up here today. Thanks to all of you guys. So thank you so much for supporting the show. Hit that thumbs up. Hit that subscribe. Join the Patreon if you haven't done that already. I love all of you guys. JSG saying, let's go, Weezy. What's up, JSG? Thanks for hopping in here, man. We got Funky Bit saying, I like Ian Gary, but every time I see him fight, I trust his defense less and less. Yeah, and he's fighting a southpaw this time. And we saw Jordan Williams landing some shots. So we're going to see how he looks having a southpaw this time that will probably be around for longer than 1 round. But, Gary does seem to find he'll start off slow, but then he finds these ways to make the adjustments, like he did in the Song Kanan fight, getting the late knockout. He found the adjustment that Jordan Williams was throwing 3rd and 4th punches onto his combinations, getting his head out over his knees, and he just caught a clean counter when he knew that 3rd strike was coming after the 2nd one missed, and that's how he did it. It was a great adjustment that he made. So Gary's not, he's losing some minutes up until the points where he wins the fights, but it's really important to see a young man like him making those adjustments. I'm betting Daniel Rodriguez. I like the price on him, but the problem is that, he's 10 years older than Ian. There are 2 completely different places in their career. It's a big step up in competition, but this kid, Ian Gary, is showing all the tools to make a run at welterweight. All right. And then a ring-a-ding-ding again. My guy Bob Spikerman's with the €2 donation saying, keep the donation coming. Haha, Weezy deserves it. Appreciate you, man. Thank you so much, Bob, for donating to the show. We got Mr. X in the room saying, Jessica Rose Clark isn't a real fighter, LOL. I don't even know what the fuck that's supposed to mean. She's got 19 professional fights. She's got a regional scene record that is better than what this girl Lisboa has on her resume, especially the wins. Jessica Rose Clark's got solid kickboxing. She's got good wrestling. She's been around for a long time. She's 4-4 in the UFC. you know, she's a solid fighter. She's not going to be wearing gold anytime soon or ever, but she's also somebody that's been around the sport for a very long time. And she's got 19 professional fights compared to 7 for Lisboa. And 5 of those fights were against like complete garbage opponents. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if Tanara Lisboa, I mean, if Jessica Rose Clark is in a real fire, what the fuck does that make Tanara Lisboa? Let's just have a little look here. Let's look at Tanara Lisboa. Let's look at the wins that are on her resume. Who's heard of Mara Suzumake? Now, I wonder why her hands are up, because it looks like she won a fight, right? But she's 0-1, so she's never even won a fucking fight. So I don't know why her arms are up. And then we got Daleen Cyborg. We don't even have a picture of this person. We don't even know if they exist. But what does exist is an 0-1 pro MMA record. That's her second win. Leticia Ferreira. She's 1-2, and there actually is a picture of this person. The Tractor does have a win on her record, and it's over Juliana Nogueira, who's 1-2. She also lost to a 0-0 fighter. And then there's Gloria Amaral in Dog Tower fight. Gloria Amaral does have a picture, and she's got 0-2. Her losses are to Marisa Locke and Tanara Lisboa. And then we've got Conceição Oliveira, 1-5. Honda is her nickname, and that's the car that she drives to her seamstress job, because on weekends she gets her ass shaved by women named Carl Yarawaki, Monique Bastos, Caroline Malonio, 0-3. She lost to Carolina. Edelina Silva, and then she got a win over Shirley Duarte. And then this is the fight that Tanara Lisboa took at 5-2, where she felt like she needed to get a little more seasoning against a 1-4 seamstress, who's now 1-5. So, yeah, man, if Jessica Rose Clark isn't a real fighter, I don't know what the fuck that makes Tanara Lisboa. Let's stack those damn flapjacks, boys, says Bob Spikerman. What's up, dude? Another donation. Thank you so much, my man. You're absolutely killing it up in here. We got Mark Schillingberg saying, I was going to say, not a beer, it has to be a Paloma. Hope that's spelled correctly. Yes, it is Paloma, Paloma. Otherwise, it could be spelled Delicou as delicious. I don't even know if I spelled delicious right, but who cares? You're not here for the spelling. We've got Daz File saying, Unk Army, let's go. That would be a great t-shirt, the Unk Army. DJ saying 1 vote for the Oi Boys. I love it, man. Mr. X agree. Yep, okay. I disagree with him there. That's all right. Justin Viega saying shirt has Uncle Weezy in that beautiful red robe with that Paloma drink you like. Few not longs and bikinis with their arms around them. Maybe with bunny ears. I love it. That's a great idea. Oh, that'd be great. Dizzy Spider saying, Weezy, oi, you giving out who's handing out the ass shaving of the week for Charlotte? Yes, I have. It is Carlos Ulberg. I know it's a wide line, but I mean, I think he's just going to absolutely destroy Ihor Paterier. So that's the ass shaving of the week this week. I'm very confident about this one. Charles Barkley saying, Weezy, baby, what's up, Charles? Good to see you hanging out in here. Always good to have the brown mound of rebound in the room with us here, chopping it up. We got Rousa saying, what are your top prize picks plays this week, Unk? So I like the under 9.5 minutes for Natan Levy. I like over 1.5 takedowns for Jessica Rose Clark. I like over 1.5 takedowns for Cody Stamann. I like over 3 takedowns for Carl Williams. Jessica Rose Clark, significant strikes. Let me look here. So Clark is landing for a minute. So this fight would have to go 15 minutes for her to land 60 at that pace, and they're giving us 57 and a half. However, we see a divergence. She's landing 5.72 distance strikes per minute, but only 2.38 clinch and ground strikes per minute. And she's spending half of the time in both positions. So if we have a fight where this fight goes into the control time positions for 7-8 minutes, 8 minutes at 2.38 significant strikes is going to bring you up to like 17 significant strikes, which means in the other 7.5, 8 minutes, you're going to have to score about 50 of them to hit that number. So I think potentially we could see an under for the significant strikes for Jessica Rose Clark, but I think it'll be close. What does Natan Levy land on the ground? Yeah, so he's not active as a ground striker, but he is landing 6.75 at distance. So if we can predict that Natan Levy's going to try to grapple here against Pete Rodriguez, then I like the under, because we would only need this fight to go about 5 minutes into control time positions. It could still go the distance, and he wouldn't cover that number. So let me see here. Natan Levy at 35 and a half significant strikes. When I see that fight going under 9 minutes to begin with, I think that that's a very good possibility for that. Let's see here. Court McGee over 60 and a half significant strikes. I think that is a potentially a good one. So Matt Brown is absorbing about 4.83 distance strikes per minute, and he's absorbing about 2 clinch strikes per minute. But Court McGee's very high volume. He's landing about 5.7 distance strikes per minute, and he lands 2 per minute in control time positions. So if we see this guy out here at distance for a good 10 minutes, at this number, 60.5, as long as this fight does go into the third round, I think that there's a very good chance that Court McGee lands over 60 and a half significant strikes. I think there's a very good chance that Olberg knocks out Peterier before he gets to 37.5, but I don't love it. 80.5 significant strikes for Ian Gary. Boy, that's a lot to ask. I know that Daniel Rodriguez does absorb a lot. Let's see here. He's absorbing 5 per minute. So even at that pace, that would be 75. 75 is what he... All right. And does Gary land more than 5 a minute? That's 6.79 and 7.72 at distance, but he might need to grapple here. I think that Ian Gary under 80 and a half significant strikes, I think, is a pretty solid play as well. That's what I'll give you for this weekend. But I one of my favorite plays is Natan Levy under 9 minutes. Yeah, that's what I'll give you, Rouses. Those are my plays here. Cody Stamen down south money says, Bumbo Clot, what's up, dude? Good to see you hanging out in here. Yeah, Stamen's the favorite for a reason, in my opinion. I think it's going to be a close fight. Looking forward to that one. Why is next week's card so horrible? Urbina and Hopper are UFC fighters, and any early leans. I kind of even like Urbina in this spot against whoever it is that he's fighting. So let's bring these stats up. Love Alexander Hernandez to win this fight. Dakota Viana, I don't have any early leans. Fialho Buckley, I'm not going to really do anything with that fight because both guys have got a ton of power. I don't think it's going to be an easy fight to predict, but I need to see how the weight cut goes for Buckley. This is going to be his first fight at 170 pounds, cutting down from 185. So we're going to have to see how that goes. Probably going to be looking at violence in that fight. Borshev versus Mahashate should be a really good strikers extravaganza here. Looking forward to that. But I like Borshev in this spot because he's a kickboxer and Mahashate is more just of a boxer. So I like Borshev in that spot. Pre-tape, that is. Ferreira Johnson, two old guys. I won't be touching it with a 10-foot pole. Karolina Kowalkiewicz. I think that Carolina is going to be the much better striker here. 5-inch reach advantage over Vanessa Demopoulos. A lot more high volume than Vanessa Demopoulos is. And we see Vanessa is, getting outlanded by about 3.3 distance strikes per minute, while for it's about 0.75 for Karolina Kowalkiewicz. So they're both, kind of landing less than their opponents do, but Karolina Kowalkiewicz will be the better minute winner at distance. And her takedown defense is solid at 75%. She only gets controlled 18% of her UFC career. And we see that Vanessa, 3 of 16 on takedowns. So I like the Kowalkiewicz money line here, even though I'm a big Vanessa Demopoulos fan. Gilbert Urbina against Orion Kosi is very, it's very low level. I'm interested to see how Gilbert does here. He's much bigger. He should be the much better striker. It just depends if Gilbert can stop the takedowns. But we'll see how that goes. Let's see. Nascimento versus Latifi. I think Latifi is going to be able to get takedowns here and just kind of lay on top of him. That's what he does. I mean, he's really good at it too. I mean, and Rodrigo's a black belt, but I don't think it matters. I mean, Latifi will take anybody down. You can't choke out a dude that doesn't have a neck. And he's built like a fucking barrel. So like doesn't even look, it's like the guy doesn't even have extremities. So yeah, I think Ilir Latifi probably wins this one. Camera unplugged again. Sato versus Garimbo is extremely low level. I probably won't be touching that one. Silva versus Leonardo is a one-sided fight. Hooper versus Fiore will be interesting. Chase Hooper, a little more experience, a little more high-level experience there, and a good grappler. So that'll be an interesting fight too. And then the debut of Steve Erceg is going to be interesting to see how that one goes. But Clay Carpenter's a pretty big favorite here over Erceg. But Erceg's a good Australian regional scene guy, so I'm interested to see him in there. All right, why is my camera not working? God damn it. Let me just hang on with me here. There we go. Much better. Okay, cool. And then we got Lone Wolf DFS saying dumbasses not knowing what the fuck they're talking about. Justin saying, why did someone give their family in Brazil the last name Cyborg? They're all just using that name, It's a nickname. Nobody's using that one, dude. We got Daz File saying, I feel bad for dissing Jesse just now, but I have a bet on Lisboa, so I'm immature enough to bag either fighter by default. They both good-looking girls, that's for sure. You got that right. They really are. Melon JS saying, is Sato versus Garimbo a fight of the year candidate? I fucking hope not, Melon JS, because that would be such a bad year. Daz File saying, Unk Army, we fight bookies with stats. I like that. Where is my fucking notebook? Unk Army. We fight bookies with stats. It is in the notebook, Daz Files. I love it. I absolutely love it. And then we got Melon JS, who is asking, what is the lean for Garimbo versus Sato? I'd like to share that with you, Melon JS, but that is going to be a Patreon-only exclusive. We're probably going to go about 3 hours deep, balls deep breakdown into the Garimbo versus Sato fight because it is one of the most anticipated fights in recent memory, and I'm not going to be giving that away for free on YouTube. I can tell you that right now. Jay Breezy in the room saying, hey, Weezy, who do you think is most likely to win, Carl Williams or Carlos Ulberg? I mean, I think that they're both so likely to win. I don't think either one of their. I just don't see any path to victory for Ihor Potentier. Like potentially Chase Sherman could land a big shot. I mean, Potentier, I guess he's got a puncher's chance too. You know, it's a heavyweight fight and a light heavyweight fight, so everybody's got a puncher's chance. But I mean, I think Alberg's even a little more likely to win than Carl Williams here. Bob Spikerman saying parlay prop pieces this week. Battle over 1.5. I like that. Douglas over 1.5. Douglas scary though, yeah, because Douglas has got a lot of power and he's such a great moment winner that I could see him doing that. I could see him winning moments and potentially getting a finish at any point in the fight. But that's a Douglas Silva de Andrade fight. But just to ease your mind just a little bit here, if we look at the prop template, and if we're talking over 1.5 rounds, Douglas Silva de Andrade's fights at the UFC level have been over 1.5 rounds 10 of 11 times. So it's a pretty safe bet. When you combine Stamen's 12 fights and de Andrade's 11, you get 20 of 23 or 87% of their fights have went over 1.5 rounds, and you're only paying 80% if you got the over 1.5 at minus 400. Alberg fight doesn't go to decision. Love that. Walker fight doesn't go to decision. Love that. Gileton under 2.5. Love that. D-Rod over 1.5. Love that. And P-Rod fight doesn't go to decision. I like all those spots, Bob. Those are all great stylistic reads, and I think a lot of them aren't even that overpriced. Yeah, Vanessa needs to get takedowns. If she doesn't get takedowns, she's not going to win minutes on the feet. She's got her and Corey McKenna have the shortest reach in the entire promotion at 58 or 59 inches. So Vanessa needs to get takedowns. And we've seen Kovalevich deal with takedown attempts for most of her career and do a pretty good job of it. Vanessa's not a big control time monster, and Kovalevich doesn't get controlled a lot. So unless she does something stupid like she did in the Penne fight, just voluntarily going into Penne's guard, I don't really see Vanessa getting a submission here or even getting the win. I do think Kovalevich, should win that fight, but at the same time, Kovalevich is getting up there, and I don't know how seriously she's taking it at this point. And Vanessa's definitely on a hot streak. We got Addicted to Combat, my guy Patrick in the room saying, "What's up, Unc? Super late, but hope all is well. Can't wait for mimosas during brunch hour fights. It's going to be a fun one. Guys, set your alarm for Saturday. We're starting 10:30 Central Time, 11:30 Eastern. God bless if you're on that West Coast. You're talking like 8:30 a.m. start time, so it's going to be a wild one. We got Bob saying an Alberg money line, probably safe, but line is gone now. And the Carl Williams line also sucks, especially for heavyweight. Yeah, I parlayed those two guys with the fight doesn't start round 3 for the main event. And it came out to like minus 103. I put 1 unit on it. Some of those juice parlays, man, they feel real safe, but 3 legs have to come in, and I always get nervous. What would you align the most anticipated rematch in MMA? Sherman versus Braxton 2. Wow. I think Sherman would probably be a pretty big favorite, actually, because Braxton looked god-awful out there against Parker Porter. So I would say Sherman maybe minus 200 is probably where, and then Braxton plus 170. That's probably where I would line that one. And, it's going to be on a pay-per-view card. It'll probably shatter the records. I mean, these rematches, they sell because there's a story there. And these guys, there's no love lost between these two. You can throw out the records when they get in the cage. There's no love lost there. It's going to be an absolute barn burner. Looking forward to that one, man. Justin Villegas saying, never know. Maybe a father stumbled upon old VHS of Universal Soldiers featuring Jean-Claude Van Damme and loved it so much and decided to change his last name to Cyborg. Yeah, well, Jean-Claude Van Damme was also in a movie called Cyborg. Maybe you didn't know that. But yeah, he also did Universal Soldier, but Cyborg was another movie that Jean-Claude Van Damme did. Real piece of shit. If you like crappy movies, I would suggest that you check that one out. But The Muscles from Brussels was cut up in that movie, looking damn good, like he does in every movie. But it was no blood sport or kickboxer or Lionheart, I can tell you that. Cyborg, piece of crap. Daz Files saying, "What's up to Addicted to Combat? Big brain in the house. What's up?" We got Prince of Mischief saying, "How many times has Douglas seen the third round?" I can tell you that. Fight starts round 3, 7 of 11 times. So it's pretty wild. 3 out of Douglas Silva de Andrade's 11 fights have finished in the second half of round 2. So 7 out of 11 times is how many times Douglas has seen the third round. And that is 63.64%, Prince of Mischief. We got LOLs. Yeah, I was just about to say Cyborg, maybe his worst movie. Yeah, for sure. It was so bad, Daz Files. It was so bad. And there's like almost no dialogue in the movie, too, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, for a Jean-Claude Van Damme film. But yeah, that was a real piece of crap. And Melon saying, "Can Braxton beat anyone? Would Barnett be the favorite?" Barnett probably would be the favorite because he'd be the more experienced fighter, probably with better wins on his resume. So yeah, I think Barnett might be like minus 130 there, and Braxton would probably be plus 100. So yeah, but we'll see Braxton Smith back again. It'll be interesting to see. Hopefully he gets to a real camp, starts training, because he's got real power, and that's really all you need to win a fight or two at the UFC level in the heavyweight division. So maybe we will see him kind of get things together and get a good opponent next time out that can help him show his skill set off. But listen, 40 guys still hanging out in here with me. Let's call it a night. I'd appreciate it if you guys would hit that thumbs up on your way out. Leave me a comment down below on your way out. Join that Patreon if you haven't already. The address is right here under my name there. And you can check it out. $5 a month for the stats package, $20 a month for the prop template. And it helps me be able to do this work. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out here. Thank you for everybody that donated to the show. It means a lot. It really makes it so much easier for me to make ends meet at the end of every month when you guys donate to the show. So I appreciate all of you guys. Thank you for hanging out. Let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Charlotte and set those alarms nice and early. Because we're going to have to get up early on Saturday to make this money, everybody. And keep an eye out on my channel. Friday, I'll be giving you guys a greasy 4-leg parlay for this week. Good night, everybody. Take care, and we will talk to you on Friday.